Yo koso owashitare. Welcome back, and today we are going to be talking about the single most famous wizard in all of ancient Japan, Abe no Seimei. Specifically, we are going to be dealing with 3 separate stories involving him. Technically, this is all one story, but if I were to make one video of all of this, then it would be the single biggest video I've ever made, so I'm splitting it up into 3 separate sections because there are 3 separate stories in this one section, whatever it is. So we are going to get to know this Abe no Seimei very well, and like I said, he is the most famous onmyoji in all of ancient Japan. So, without further ado, we are going to get right into it. Oh, except one thing. That. Yep. We're constantly on the lookout here for improving, trying to make things better, so you can enjoy yourself a little bit more. Give these stories a little bit more pizzazz. Anyway, let's get on with the story. Once upon a time, imawa mukashi, there was a tenmon hakase by the name of Abe no Seimei, an onmyoji, and if you're wondering what all of those fancy Japanese words mean, I did explain in a previous video. An onmyoji is a catch-all term for an ancient Japanese wizard, somebody practiced in ancient Japanese arcane arts, and a tenmon hakase is a professor of celestial writing, basically somebody who looks at the stars and does astrology, among other supernatural magical duties. And this Abe no Seimei was supreme in his craft. Seriously, one of the best when it came to these arcane magical mystical arts. He was a very noble man, very dignified man, and could even stand shoulder to shoulder unabashedly with the ancient sages of times past. And if you know anything about the ancient Japanese and how they like to sing the praises of anybody, if anybody could match the ancients, then that means that you were out of this world, next level, some of the best, like no one ever was. However, this Abe no Seimei was at one time a child, of course he was. And when he was a child, he was a disciple of another onmyoji, another Japanese wizard, whom we have already met in previous videos by the name of Kamo no Tadayuki. And Abe no Seimei followed his master day and night, learned from him, and he was a fantastic student. One of the best, never caused his master any sort of shame or made his master worry in any sort of way. And while this Abe no Seimei was a young man, still an apprentice to Kamo no Tadayuki, his master decided that he wanted to go out for a nighttime stroll. I don't know if nighttime stroll is the best way to describe it. He was out and about late at night. Now, why would he be out and about late at night? If you've watched some previous videos, you will know that the capital is not the safest place after dark. So what was he doing out and about? Honestly, he could have been on duty. He could have been on his way to or from a specific job, but he very well could also have been out looking to spend some quality time with lady friends, if you know what I mean. But regardless of why he was out at night, he was out at night. And being a nobleman, he never went anywhere without a handful of trusty retainers and his apprentice and riding in a carriage, probably an ox-drawn cart. So this night, their entire retinue is out and about in the lower parts of the city. I'm not entirely sure what it means by the lower parts, but they're in the lower parts. They're in downtown. They're not in the upscale parts, I'm assuming is what it means. They're in the downtown parts. And they're going along like normal. It's a nice, beautiful night. The moon is out. The crickets are singing. The wind is softly blowing through the trees. Everything is great. Abe no Seimei was following behind the carriage that his master was riding in, and his master was actually in the carriage, sound asleep, completely out. But it was in this picturesque nighttime stroll that Abe no Seimei happened to look up and saw off in the distance, coming directly toward them, 2 massive, grotesque, terrifying-looking oni. Now, what is an oni, you might say? Well, if you're a big fan of traditional Japan as told by the Edo period, which most of what we think of traditional Japan comes from there, you're going to imagine oni as these big hulking ogre-like beings with horns and big teeth, and usually they're red ones and blue ones. But quite frankly, that description doesn't necessarily fit with the concept of oni at this time. You gotta remember, this period that we're dealing with here was centuries before the Edo period, which again is where we get most of our understanding of modern Japanese culture. Geisha did not exist at this time, at least not in the way that you think. Kimono didn't exist in this time, at least not in the way that you think. Samurai didn't exist at this time, at least not in the way you think. And that goes especially true for supernatural creatures like oni and ghosts and things like that. So what did these oni look like? Well, we don't know. There's a whole section in these stories that deals with Japanese oni and the many forms and the many ways that they can appear to humans. And we will get there eventually. But for now, just know that they may have looked something like what you might be thinking, but they may have also looked very, very different. But regardless of what they looked like, Abe no Seimei knew that these were oni, and oni are not good. They're never good. They are always bad omens out to get people. So Abe no Seimei, being a young boy, and though he's an apprentice in the arcane arts, he is certainly no match for two massive, terrifying looking oni. So, seeing that they're on their way towards the retinue, Abe no Seimei immediately runs to the back of the carriage, and he wakes his master up like, Sir, you need to see we need you, we're in trouble. And Kamo no Tadayuki suddenly wakes up, probably needs to take a second to collect his wits about him, figure out where he is, what's going on. It's dark, so he can't see what's going on around him very well. But he wakes up, he talks to Abe no Seimei, who tells him, Sir, there are two terrifyingly huge oni on their way over here. Please do something or we're going to all get eaten. And Kamo no Tadayuki obviously is a bit shocked at this news, but he wastes no time. He immediately gets out of the carriage and he starts walking around the carriage, tells everybody to stop and huddle together, and he starts casting spells, doing his onmyo magic stuff. And after he gets done casting spells, he goes with the rest of his retinue and they sit there and they wait. And they see these oni coming towards them. And they're getting closer and closer. Kamo no Tadayuki just tells everybody, shh, don't say anything, just stay here. Do not move, don't go anywhere. Just stay here. And again, these oni are getting closer and closer, and they get right up next to the carriage. So close. But they pass by. They don't do a single thing to these people. They just continue on their way like they didn't see anything at all. And once these oni were far enough away where everybody felt safe, the party just continued on like nothing had happened. Awesome. Great. So this Kamo no Tadayuki was also a very experienced onmyoji, very experienced Japanese wizard. And from that time forth especially, Tadayuki had a special attachment to his young disciple, Abe no Seimei. And he began teaching this young lad everything that he could possibly teach him about the arcane ways. And the text specifically describes Tadayuki teaching Abe no Seimei as like pouring water from one vase directly into the other, which is a fancy way of saying that Abe no Seimei was very receptive to everything that his master was teaching him, and he absorbed it all and contained it all and had zero problem in mastering these techniques. And so, Abe no Seimei eventually, as he grew older and became a full-fledged man, was an onmyoji who was utilized by both private individuals, individual noblemen who had various issues that they needed taken care of, and by the public, specifically by the emperor and the government. And during his whole time as an onmyoji, he was a very dignified man. And there is no thus is it said at this part, because again, the whole story is in 3 parts, so you're going to get parts 2 and 3 next time. Rather, you'll get part 2 next time, and then you'll get part 3 after that. I do have one thing that I want to point out. So, if any of you guys are familiar with Japanese pop culture, you likely know about ninja. And you may very well know about a little anime called Naruto. Now, I've never actually seen Naruto, but I know little bits and things about it. I've heard people complain that everyone in Naruto is supposed to be a ninja, but actually they're just magicians and sorcerers casting magic spells at each other. They're not actually ninja. Well, what I want to point out is that if you look at this video and some of the previous stories that we've had, one of the things that onmyoji were very, very good at is casting spells of undetection, invisibility. And so it actually doesn't surprise me that ninja were supposedly good at some of these spells of concealment, of hiding, of sneaking around. It makes a lot of sense to me that if you're going to have these fantastic tales about these guerrilla warriors who are really, really good at stealth, that they might also be practiced in arcane arts designed to hide them, to mask their sight and their sound, so they can accomplish these daring feats of stealth and espionage. So, maybe the next time somebody says Naruto isn't about ninjas, it's actually about sorcerers, you can point to this story and say, well, you know what? Maybe the line between sorcerers and ninjas wasn't actually that hard and fast, according to the ancient Japanese. So please share that with all of your weeb friends who don't know any better. Which is a fantastic segue into ending the video. Thank you for your listen. Thank you for your view. If you liked what you heard, please like the video. If you want to be here for parts 2 and 3, please subscribe to the channel. They will be coming. And again, share this with your weeb friends, because now you know something about not only Japanese history, but also about classic Japanese literature. And like I said, Abe no Seimei is the most famous wizard in Japanese history. Well, there may be some others from the Edo period, but I don't care about the Edo period. I'm a Heian Jidai kind of a guy, you know what I'm saying? I like the really old stuff. So again, thank you. Thank you for listening. Ito katejike no koso haberikere. And hopefully we will see you next time for part 2. Adios.